built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production. It's Jess Blaze, host of the Build Blue podcast, and we are live on location once again today. We are at Schell's Brewery in New Ulm, and I am joined today by two awesome guests, and I'm so happy to be here. Can you guys introduce yourselves and then tell people what they're seeing if they're watching on YouTube, like what part of the brewery we're in?
Kristy Paulson, local sales route.
And Curt Van Asten, general manager. So we are currently in our tap room, our original beer service location of the visitor center. If you haven't been here lately, it's now located underneath our brand new beer hall that we just opened, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But this is where you'd come, have an event, do a tour, do a tasting. This was kind of the front of house for that tourism aspect that we had for the longest time.
And we're going to get into, like Curt said, we're going to get into the changes and some of the really exciting things that are happening here at Schells. But first I have to ask our Build Blue podcast icebreaker. We ask everybody this. When you were children, what did you guys want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a gymnast, but I couldn't even do a forward roll, so I had to switch my dream.
And for me, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I wanted to be a pilot. So that was my lifelong goal, but growing up in a small town, not being around many airports. I didn't see many airplanes, so I think that was maybe the draw of it when I saw them flying around the sky. We actually had a little regional airport that would teach skydiving lessons, so I would see lots of skydivers all the time. So that was pretty fun to watch, but I always wanted to be up there, but I don't know if I could ever jump out of a plane.
I was just going to ask, have you ever gone skydiving?
I want to, but I think I would chicken out a lot by the time I got up there.
After a few Schell's beers, you're just fine.
You can do anything. I have also never skydived. So the history of Schells dates back to the 1800s. It's an incredible story, and we would like to have you guys share some more about the history of Schells Brewery in New Ulm.
Yeah, so I'll kind of get into this. This is going to be as short-winded as I can make it with
problem.
the history, but we'll kind of give the 3,000-foot view, Cliff Notes version. So it all dates back to one single guy, August Schell. He set out to the United States in 1848, ended up landing in New Orleans. He then traveled up the Mississippi and kind of rooted himself in Cincinnati. This was kind of his early years. He was actually a machinist. There he met his wife Teresa, and they decided that Cincinnati wasn't quite home after having a few children. So then they headed out and ended up finding New Ulm in 1857. With his machinist background, he took a job in a flour mill, grinding and repairing. Working in the mill and kind of being from that quality German beer heritage, he kind of was looking for that beer style to no prevail in New Ulm. He actually met a former brewmaster in the area and partnered with him, and along the banks of the Cottonwood River, just out of town, decided to make a small brewery. Around 1883, after some time dealing with some arthritis, August's sons Otto and Adolf took the management and bookkeeping duties on respectively. At the age of 63, he ended up passing away, leaving Teresa the owner of the brewery, but the sons were still running the operations. So Adolf was still managing the brewery at the time, which for him, Minnesota winters proved to be no match. So he moved his family back to California, and Otto then took the reins as manager of the brewery. Otto realized that the playing field was getting tougher and more breweries were popping up in the New Ulm area as well as general. New Ulm Schell's Brewery was actually producing about 9,000 barrels a year at that time, but looking for expansion, pretty much to double that production. So it took a risk, and he actually modernized and expanded the brewery and upgraded the machinery around that time. He needed more help with the expansion, so he enlisted his sister Emma and her husband George Marty to return to the brewery to kind of help operations. They were actually up in the cities for the longest time. In 1902, the August Schell Beer Company, so August Schell Beer Company, became known the August Schell's Brewing Company. Even though Otto had been managing the operations for a lot of years, it wasn't until this point when the board of directors officially declared Otto Schell the president of the brewery. Teresa Schell retained ownership of the brewery at this time, but was named vice president, and her husband George Marty was the secretary and treasurer at that time. 1911, going right along, Otto suddenly died at the age of 49. This kind of stud in the community because the whole family was very active members in the community. Otto's mother, Teresa, actually passed away 4 months later, and after Otto's death, George Marty, sister's husband, was appointed president of the operations of the brewery, and now it's been a Marty in the realm of operations and management still to this day, now being Ted, soon to be handed off to the other sons upon retirement. Fast forward to 1919 and the implementation of the 18th Amendment, Prohibition. Obviously, being a brewery up and running when you can't actually produce the product is super challenging. So the brewery began producing near beer, soft drinks, candy, just to keep the equipment running in hopes that one day they could transition back to actually making beer. Near beer is typically contained less than 0.5% alcohol. And it's just purely made to replicate the taste of the beer without the alcoholic aspect of it. And then also too, our 1919 root beer that we produce now kind of replicates that process that we had in a nod to the era with its naming rights of 1919. Fast forward to 1933, the 21st Amendment was ratified, and we can start making beer again. There were 1,900 breweries in the United States at the time of Prohibition, and only 600 were left when it came back. So Schells being one of them, this was in turn of those processes they made, so the machines actually were able to remain in operation through those years, which made the transition back to brewing so much easier when we were able to open the doors. Fast forward again, we'll go to 1984. There has been trials and tribulations up until then, but this is kind of when we were the first brewery in Minnesota to actually start producing craft beer. A few were created in the 80s, mostly followed in the 90s, but Schells was at the forefront of that German craft lager push in the Midwest as well as Minnesota. In 1999, business was going well, everyone was enjoying the craft lagers. Obviously, we're no longer in the days of 200 annual barrels of production, so we ended up having to put a brand new state-of-the-art brew house in, which was built and expanded into the hillside to increase the capacity efforts. We actually had 4 stainless steel kettles that were actually imported from Germany to keep the strong tradition alive. Last little point, 2002, Grain Belt was on the brink of extinction when the Minnesota Brewing Company filed for bankruptcy. Just a few months after the doors were closed, Schells decided to step up and make the biggest purchase to date as a company and bought the Greenbelt label. What was once a rivalry now became a friendship and a cooperation, and Schells and Greenbelt probably represented now in the same house. That purchase made us the largest brewery in Minnesota in terms of production annually. So for a quick 3,000-foot view, I think that gets you to the start of it to where we are today.
Well, when you have to go back to the 1840s, it's going to take a minute to tell the story. Thank you for sharing that story with us, Curt, and just the rich history of Schells Brewing is so interesting, and especially to hear it all laid out like that. So thank you for doing that for us. Last summer, the beer hall was added. So let's kind of bring it to present day and talk about some of these exciting changes and growth that are happening now, like the beer hall. And we want to talk about the new opportunities that are going to come with that, especially as we get into warmer months here.
Yeah, we can kind of tag team this. It's been an interesting thing. Kristy actually held this position after Jody Marty stepped away and retired. She was kind of our hospitality guru for years. Kristy stepped in to fill those shoes, and they wanted her back on her sales route so bad. They convinced her to get back out there in the community, and I was lucky enough to kind of fill the role after that. So she was able to watch the whole construction process and move, so she can give you a little bit of that, and then I can kind of get a little bit into kind of what we're planning on moving forward.
Okay.
So the visitor center was Ted Marty's wife Jody's dream. She planned it, started it, implemented it. So it started with the gift shop, a very large gift shop, and then a very large museum. But as times have changed and the sons are starting to take over, we decided it was time to go that extra step and build a tap room. or beer hall as we call it, to differentiate from this one. So we moved the gift shop across the hallway, condensed the museum, and then last June, we officially opened the Schell's Beer Hall.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's
Yes.
such a cool space. The big high ceilings, the bright colors, the beautiful. This I'm gonna get some pictures for our Instagram before I go. This beautiful, thick, white, solid countertop. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. We appreciate
And
that.
I imagine people are really happy to have that space to sit and enjoy their Schell's beer for a little bit longer.
Yes. It's nice to have a place, if you choose not to go on a tour or the tours are full, which usually happens on weekends, you can at least go to the beer hall, have a beer and a good conversation, and listen to great stories from the bartenders.
And it's also unique too. A lot of the production guys, if you come during the weekday, they'll come over from production and come on over, and they're telling their stories about this, that, and you'll get the guy that's traveling from Tennessee through for a business trip, wanted to stop by, check this brewery off his list, and now he's talking beer with a guy that literally was making it across the street.
10 minutes earlier,
yeah.
yes.
It's very cool. And with the warmer weather coming and summer and the first new normal, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, we're also happy that we're back together gathering again. So what's in store for the space this summer?
Yeah, we're busy with tourism, obviously, during the year. Winter is the same as any other tourism in Minnesota. It slows down a little bit, but we're seeing it ramp up a lot. That 80-degree day the other day really gave us a glimpse into what we're in store for. So,
Peacocks were even dancing around on that
yeah,
day.
they were
I
happy.
love that.
But yeah, just that vibe that aligns with kind of just hanging out at the tap room at your local brewery, that's back, and you can kind of feel that in the community, and people are starting to go for that. Another big thing is this opportunity now that we have another place to program things. So this tap room we're currently in, we're going to start opening up for rentals. We've never done that before. So the history of Schells is going to be able to be represented in a company party, a bachelor, bachelorette party, a birthday party. We have a lot of interest. We're going to do a big push this summer on that. So this space will be, I think, a really cool, unique atmosphere for people to use along those lines. As for kind of like the summer and coming up, we have some fun things. We're going to do an Easter egg hunt for the first time around the grounds. We created a summer music series in the beer garden. So we have food trucks and regional artists every other Friday through the whole summer. That's from June till September. Then we do have our beer garden music on the Sundays. That's more of that local draw when the tourists head back. So this is more that German style music, local musicians, something for the community as a thank you for dealing with us, putting up with us, and supporting us. So that's that we keep that very local and it's a very good community that comes out for things like that.
Sunday's a crazy busy day in the summer.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Get that music and the
Yes.
sunshine and these beautiful grounds.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, we're just working on some other stuff. Like I'm trying to work on a pet-friendly event, really letting people know that, we have peacocks and deer and we're family-friendly. Even though we're a brewery, there's a whole museum, there's a garden, there's animals. Like, we're trying to really get that word out there to come on down now that this beer hall's open. And you don't have to plan a trip. You can just show up and then you can kind of experience it as you go now. We're bringing in another 5K beer run again. We've had one in the past. It was very successful. And then with a few years of COVID, we kind of put it to the wayside. But with my background, I wanted to bring that back. And then, just the rentals and the brewery tours they book up fast. As soon as we kind of release some dates, they go pretty quick.
Sounds like a lot of exciting things in store. Can we talk about the Peacocks?
Yeah,
I'm kind of diverting
100%.
from our list, but
That's fine.
I know there's Peacocks, but is there history or a story behind the Peacocks?
So there was an Avery on campus for the
Okay.
longest time. I'm not sure exactly when they were introduced. They weren't always part of the family.
I think it was the 1980s.
Okay.
Yeah, but at some point, there's actually a guy across the river that raises them and breeds them. So they are local to us. They have been a staple for 40, 50
Yep.
years already. So it's just one of those cool things. We have feathers for sale, and I just brought my daughter here last weekend, and we played hide and seek because she knew they were here and she wanted to go see Daddy's peacock. So we had to go search the whole grounds for them. When we found them, I don't think I've ever seen her smile bigger because it gave her the whole show and everything. And
yes.
we actually have little stuffed animal peacocks for sale.
Just a special show for the boss.
Yep. He doesn't normally show off, but I think he knew that he needed to.
I got you.
Yeah. And then we have like stuffed peacocks, so we had to go buy one so she could have one at home because Dad has one at work. So yeah, it's a really cool thing. A lot of times in the morning they're waiting at the door greeting me, so I have to I need to get in or I'm trying to get out, and they just kind of stare at me, going, "Yeah, you want to come out? Well, come say hi to me first." So
fun peacock fact: their main staple, at least here, is cat food. That's not all they eat, but that's their main.
Mm-hmm. How interesting.
Yeah.
I've always loved peacocks, so that was a good story.
Yeah, and then we have our deer in the back. So we have 3 deer out there. He actually just dropped his horns right before Bachfest, so they all kind of look the same right now. But he's strutting himself out there. You can tell that the warmer weather coming, they're getting a little more active. It's just a cool vibe around here during the summer when the flowers are in bloom and the garden's going, and just there's hundreds of people walking the grounds. There's
very family friendly.
It's really unique.
Yeah, it's such a gem tucked back in here, and the grounds are beautiful. Let's talk about upcoming products, new things that are going to be released. I know you guys are excited about this part.
We have a lot of stuff coming up right now. We have Goose Town back. That's been out for about a month and a half maybe. Sorry. And that's a local favorite. That'll be a limited run. It'll only be out for a couple months. Locale Twist is coming out next week, I believe.
Yes.
They're shooting to can it on Friday. Sangria was just released. That's another favorite. It's technically a beer, but obviously tastes like a wine. That will be out through Labor Day. Sometimes lasts longer, depends on how demand is, but for sure through Labor Day. Our newest beer is a No Frills Pils, brand new as of a month ago. That's slated to be a year-round beer.
Nice, easy drinking through and through. If you just want a really good German-style light beer, that's our kind of our go-to. That the guys they're coming down from the brewery and having one of those before they go home, just as a nice refresher. So
it's also Franz Marty's new favorite, I think.
Yeah.
Hefeweizen will be coming back out. This year it will be limited. It won't be our summer seasonal per se. So when you see it in the stores, pick it up when you can. Lake Escape is another brand new one. It'll be our summer seasonal. That's a Kolsch style beer. Fresh Prince is our new cold IPA. That will be out end of April, May, hopefully. We've had, supply, waiting on things like everybody else.
The can issues, cardboard issues,
Yep.
The whole supply chain is kind of screwy right now.
Everything issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the game plan is end of April, May.
So bear with us and don't hold us too late.
Yes.
Everyone be patient.
And on the Grain Belt side, we have Grain Belt Blue back. This year we're doing a light blue and a new lemon shandy. Ooh. So those should be out sometime next week in the local market.
Monday local. Yep.
Yeah.
People are going to be excited about the blue light.
Yeah.
We have it on tap right now in the
blue.
tap room in the beer garden, in the beer hall.
Exclusive right now at the tap room.
Okay, I remember when the blue came out for the first spring, and people were just crazy about it. So I think that light blue will be a nice addition to the product mix too. There is certainly a sense of optimism, I think, as people are returning to normal and getting out and about. It just feels so good to put something on your calendar, know that it's going to happen, be confident that you're gonna get to actually enjoy it. So, are you guys sensing that among your patrons and your team as well?
Yeah, 100%. Our phones are blowing up over here with either performers looking to perform, people looking to book rentals. When are we open? When are our hours? How much is the tour? I think people have been cooped up long enough that even just, I'm part of the chamber board now and trying to figure out, how to leverage those people that want to get out. I think New Ulm is supporting us and we support New Ulm greatly. And there's new festivals that are being promoted. Things have been brought brought back from the dead that, kind of COVID killed, or a couple of years ago, where I don't know if we should do this, but the interest is there and people are wanting, and everyone that, today I was talking to a couple one guy was from Florida, the other guy was from the cities, and then there was another family that was from Iowa, but the dad was from northern Michigan, and this is all at 11 o'clock, noon, and we get people from all over the country that are just excited to go out and experience kind of our history, just even if it's just having a beer at the counter, it's just that unique experience to cross off the list that you were able to have a beer at the second oldest family owned brewery in the country. So there's all these conversations that we're seeing is just people are excited to get out and about, and I hope this summer really proves what we're looking for this growth-wise.
And I think one thing that you guys do so well among many is that marriage between the old and the new, and the new products and catering to that new customer, but honoring the history of the brewery and being proud of that history. And I think that's really cool how you guys have found that synergy and really owned it.
And I think New Ulm does that as a whole very well. There's, young and old in this town, but that heritage is there. But the young people that decide to stay after college or come back after college, they have their interests and their needs and their wants, but that history is very important to anyone that steps through this town.
Yeah, absolutely. And the downtown is flourishing and growing, and there's young businesses, and so it's just cool to see all of that for this community. Are there any other events that are planned that we haven't touched on?
Well, we have our annual events that kind of plus or minus the summer. So we just got done with our Bach Fest about a month ago. We had about 4,000 people show up for that in a rainy, sleety, crappy. It was the most unique. Care. No,
we had thunder and snow and
sleet and rain.
That was the first time in 35 years we've ever had that.
But it was a party, and people were ready to come out and ready to hang out, and then we kind of bookend that at the end of the year with our Oktoberfest celebration, which is, always a German heritage, always a nod to that with our Oktoberfest every release. It's just one of those things that everyone in this town gets behind, and it's fun to see a couple thousand people running around in lederhosen and having a good time on the grounds, especially, once winter's done and the summer comes, there's a little more color. It's a whole different vibe than let's survive the cold and have some beer versus let's take in the beautiful atmosphere before that comes.
Yep.
So it's two different mentalities that you can really tell feed off of. Those events make them very special in themselves.
For sure.
And Schells, in general, in all the years I've worked here, they're very big on supporting the local community because they've supported us for so many years. So a lot of the reasons why we do the festivals and put them on is in hopes of bringing people to town, and then they stay at the hotels, go to the restaurants, continue having a beer or two downtown. So it's a very good working relationship between the brewery and the whole business community in New Ulm.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing we do really goes late into the evening. We are very respectful for anything that's going on around downtown and those local businesses that do sell our beer. Our tap room, like we said, upstairs closes at 5. Our festivals are done by 6 o'clock, so there's a whole night that can still happen downtown that we're able to push 4,000 people into the local community to support.
Just to clarify, Fridays and Saturdays till 8,
Yeah,
right?
till 8, but yes.
But during the week till 5.
Yes.
IPAs, of course, still the going trend. You're seeing those all over, and Schells has several to choose from, including the new one, Kristy, that you mentioned coming this spring. So what other trends are you guys noticing in your industry?
A big thing that we're noticing is, we developed a seltzer. Those people that kind of have those gluten reactions or looking for something a little lighter on that seltzer trend. Also those fruity beers with the shanty and the light blue.
Health conscious.
Yeah, the low-cal twist. Something that would go really well on a hot day on a boat on a lake type of a feel. Obviously, we have those heavy German beers that is our heritage, but everything we do through and through has that German backing. But there is a lot of people that are looking for those unique experiences. You go to a lot of these breweries, and unfortunately for us, we're part of those few that can't do growlers and crawlers. One of 6 breweries in the whole country that cannot sell off sale out of their tap rooms because we produce too much beer in a year. One of those Minnesota laws that goes back to the Prohibition that we're hoping to change, but that kind of shackles us to do some fun, unique, smaller batch type of stuff. So a lot of the things that we do have to be on a grand scale, and we're 2 feet in, fully committed. We can't really do those trial and error type of things that some of these other breweries do that have really fun one-offs and things like that. So until that changes, you're going to see full commitment from Schells on anything that we put out in the market.
The seltzers are really good, and I think that's a tricky one because there's so many, and there's so many that are very mediocre.
Yes.
A couple
But how
summers
many
ago, I
are
tried
nice
every
breakers?
single one, and you guys have the best one. I don't know
Appreciate it.
if it's like the aftertaste on the other ones, but anyway. And the branding is so cute.
Yeah.
And that's part of what sells those seltzers, I'm convinced, is that people want the cute branding
yeah.
that goes with it.
Yeah.
So well done
Thank you.
on those products. Let's let people know how they can find you guys physically and out on off sale and online, all
Yeah,
those places.
So a good start is our website. There's a lot of information on there, including our story, our history, our hours. There's a beer finder tab on there, so kind of wherever you are regionally, you can kind of track down and see, where you can find the beer, what distributors kind of sell it, and those liquor stores of kind of at least a general idea of where it's been sold the last couple months. Obviously, it's an ever-evolving door that it's Kristy's job to keep it on the shelves and in the taps. But yeah, we have, like I said, we have our 3 service locations here on Schell's campus proper. We have our tap room, which we're sitting in now, our beer hall upstairs, and our beer garden outside. And then on the other side of town, we haven't even touched base on this. We have our Star Keller. That's our sour operation. So that's strictly sour beers on that side with a little bit of Schells sprinkled in for those that might not quite have sours be their taste. But we do a lot of cool events. We do a fermentation process that's much different over there. You can walk in, it's a whole different vibe, a whole atmosphere. You're sitting around the wood.
You're actually in the room where the tanks.
Oh, cool.
You're surrounded by the tanks that are holding the beer.
It's got a really cool vibe, dim lights. It's a really cool atmosphere if you're looking for something unique and different. That's the Midwest. We're one of the few sour production facilities in the country that does it, and one of the very few that does it, if not the only one that does it the way we do.
It's a 1 to 2 years process from start
Really?
to finish.
Yeah, so it's a full-in commitment, but it's a whole different vibe than what we have going on here. But it's between Schell, Star Keller, and Grain Belt. Yeah, we have a really good family tree.
Absolutely. And social media, I know you guys are really active on there. What are your handles on Facebook and Instagram? Are you guys on the TikTok?
Yes, we are. Yeah,
Glad
so
you're here, 'cause I don't.
yeah, we have a phenomenal guy. I'm going to give a shout out to Johnny.
Johnny, we love you.
He does a phenomenal job. He actually, one of our biggest things this year leading up to Bachfest, he was running around the facility in an all-white outfit with a white goat head, running around taking different videos, and it just went
From all
crazy
over the
on
booth.
social media. But
Yeah.
we didn't know what was going on, and we just looked out the window, and here's Johnny running across the parking lot dressed like a goat. And we're like, what the heck is happening? But yeah, he has fun with it. But yeah, we have Schells, we have our Grain Belts, we have Star Keller. Pretty much those are our socials for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We own that proper. So, and then the different websites. The Schells and Star Keller are under the same umbrella, under the Schells brand, but Grain Belt has its own branding, its own sales team. It's kind of its own beast that runs itself. So we have a great crew that's committed to both sides, and obviously there's some overarch between a lot of that because it is our whole family. But yeah, we have a lot of fun around here.
It seems like it. It seems like really, really good vibe, really
We get
good
to have a
culture.
beer when we're doing
Get to have
podcasts.
a beer on the podcast. Is there anything else, Kristy and Curt, that you guys would like to add?
I just thank you to everyone that supported us. Obviously, it's been tough with COVID. We saw our off sale and on premise. Everything suffered for everyone. But being stuck at home, a lot of people did turn to finding what we can do at home and those small social gatherings. And we saw a lot of growth in some of our cans and different things that we were able to actually put out into market and do what we could during those times. And it helped us greatly. I mean, not everyone walked away, able to continue to do what they do. So we just, as always, say thank you to New Ulm, the local communities that support us, and the regions, the states, everyone that kind of supports us and has supported us for years. we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to be doing this and representing the history that it was if it isn't for the generations that have consumed our liquids. So I think that's the most important thing for me to get out there is, a thank you, and I hope to see you here now that we can get you here again.
Yes, come see the beautiful
And
grounds.
come on over to the beer hall and just say you saw the podcast, and Curt will buy you a beer.
Come on over.
Well, this is the Build Blue podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Curt and Kristy, thank you so much for your hospitality. It was great to come out here. I'm glad that you guys asked me to come here instead of coming to our office, because it just adds to the whole experience. So thank you so much for agreeing to be guests on the podcast as well.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.